Hello, and welcome to another video on navigating the Windows environment with a screen reader. Today we're going to take a look at the Windows Action Center. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that though we will be using JAWS for Windows as our screen reader today, you can use any screen reader for Windows that you're comfortable with or no screen reader at all, since these commands and processes are completely Windows-based. So let's go ahead and just get started on a little bit of an overview of what the Windows Action Center is. The Windows Action Center contains quick settings, which are settings that Microsoft kind of determined are the most accessed by users. So it contains a couple of different areas. So one of them are quick toggles. So those are things like you can quickly turn on and off your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, airplane mode, battery saver, things like that. There's also the availability to access other quick settings like the Wi-Fi options or the Bluetooth options. We looked at the Wi-Fi options in another video and how to access that in a different way, but this is just a different way to get to the same setting that we accessed before. You can also get access to other quick options like accessibility settings, casting to wireless displays, or control how secondary displays function, like does it duplicate your display, things like that, that are more advanced functions that many users like to access. There's also an area for your sliders, which are, again, we have accessed this in a different way, but there's access to your sliders like adjusting your system volume and your screen brightness. This is just another way to get to those because honestly, it's never a bad thing to have multiple ways to adjust settings, especially if you run into a roadblock or something, you can't remember how to do something or something isn't functioning as expected. It's never a bad idea to have more than one method to do a thing. Just so that you know, the quick settings might look just a little bit different based on your version of Windows and other maybe factors. You cannot really remove or add any of the quick settings from the Windows Action Center anymore. That used to be something that you used to be able to do in previous versions of Windows, but not in the current version that is being demonstrated today. There are ways to rearrange those, but realistically, it's not something that most people usually care to do. So let's go ahead and get started and take a look at what the Action Center looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Windows key plus the letter A for Action Center. And we're going to review the different areas of the Action Center and the quick settings that are available there. So Windows plus A alpha.
Windows quick settings, Y-5 button on 1 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
As you've heard, we're focused on the Wi-Fi button. This is a button that turns on and off or toggles your Wi-Fi. Right now, my Wi-Fi is on, but if for some reason I wanted to turn it off, I could press Enter or spacebar to turn it off. As you may recall from a previous video, to access settings associated with Wi-Fi, I would press my Tab key.
Manage Y-5 connections button 1 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
But I don't want to do that, so I'm going to press Shift Tab and go back.
Y-5 button on 1 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
As you heard, it's option 1 of 12. If I want to go to the next item in my list, I'm going to press the right arrow.
Bluetooth button on 2 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
As you've heard, this is the second setting in 12 settings, and it's a Bluetooth button. Much like the Wi-Fi, there is an option to get to more Bluetooth options by pressing the Tab key.
Manage Bluetooth devices button 2 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
But again, I would press spacebar or enter to activate that. I don't want to, so I'm going to Shift Tab back.
Bluetooth button on 2 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
And we're still in the second item of 12. I'm going to press my right arrow to move to the next setting.
Airplane mode button off 3 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
This button toggles your airplane mode on and off if you press enter. Just a quick explanation, having airplane mode off ensures that your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth function. So make sure that if you want to be online, your airplane mode is indeed off. This is often a cause for issues if people accidentally turn their airplane mode on. Then obviously your Wi-Fi and or your Bluetooth will not work. So ensure if you want to be online or connected to Bluetooth that your airplane mode is indeed off. So I'm going to press my right arrow to go to the next setting.
Energy saver button off. 5 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
This is my energy setting, and as you heard, it's the 5th button in 12. You may have noticed that the 4th button was completely skipped. This is because the way my buttons are, that 4th setting isn't something that I can change. So it's grayed out. So Windows does not put it in focus at all, but it subtly lets you know that it was skipped over by letting you know that you're on the 5th setting of 12 when before you were on the 3rd setting. So it sort of skipped it over. And that's perfectly fine. It might happen to you if there are specific things that are grayed out, but I just wanted to let you know that that is something that sometimes does happen. So I'm going to press my right arrow again.
Accessibility button. 6 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
Accessibility. If I pressed enter here, I would be able to access some accessibility settings, such as magnifier, turning on and off narrator, and things like that. I don't need those right now, and I'm not going to go through that menu, but I wanted to let you know that it is here. So let's press right arrow again.
Live captions button off. 7 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
I could turn on live captions if I were hard of hearing or for other reasons would want them. I don't want those on, so I'm going to press right arrow.
Night light button on. 8 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
Now my night light is turned on. Again, that's a toggle. Right arrow to the next.
Mobile hotspot button off. 9 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
Right arrow again.
Nearby sharing button off. 10 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
Right arrow again.
Cast button. 11 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
Now this is a cast button, so if you want to cast to a wireless display, or if in my case I'm actually connected to a wired display and that's turned on. But if I wanted for some reason to turn that off, I could. If I wanted to stop sharing to a display that's connected to my computer, this is a way you could do that, just as a heads up. So one more.
Project button. 12 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
And if I wanted to project my screen, so if I wanted to duplicate my screen, like how do I want my secondary screen, if I had one connected, do I want it to extend? This is sort of a sighted person thing, or people who can see that are using multiple displays. This is how to control that. So those are the 12 items in that list. This is just one area of the Action Center, the quick settings area of the Action Center. If I were to press tab here, I would go to an area that allows me to control what page I'm on. And often that's kind of something that's not necessary because we have only 12 items here and it's just as easy to arrow your way through them. But I just want to let you know that that exists.
Pager. Previous page button. To activate, press space bar. Page 2 button. 2 of 2. To activate, press space bar.
And if I press tab again,
Brightness left right slider 100%. 1 of 2. To increase or decrease, use the arrow keys.
I'm in this area that has my sliders. There are 2 sliders or 2 things that are in this area because it said 1 of 2. I'm at a brightness level of 100% here. And if I wanted to adjust that, I would use my left and right arrow keys.
93%.
And, whatever, however I want to adjust it. I could hold down that right or left arrow key to go in larger increments as noted before. Now remember, I'm in a list. So to get to that second slider, I want to press a down arrow.
93%. Mute volume button off. 2 of 2. To activate, press space bar.
So now I'm on a mute volume button. Now, if you might recall, I got to this area in another video by going to the system tray, the notification area of the taskbar, and navigated to volume. That might be a faster way to get to this volume area than navigating this Windows Action Center. It might not. Again, it's all about options. Remember, this volume area has 3 areas to it. There's the mute button, and if I press tab,
Sound output left right slider 50%. To increase or decrease, use the arrow keys.
now I'm focused on the slider, and I would adjust it with my left and right arrow button. If I press tab again,
Select the sound output button. To activate, press space bar.
I would be able to open that sound output area to choose a sound output source. Again, this is the second item in my list. So if I press tab, I'm going to navigate out of this list.
Battery button. To activate, press space bar.
This is the battery button. It doesn't announce to you the battery level in this way. There are other ways to get the battery to announce. So if I press tab again,
All settings button. To activate, press space bar.
I can open my all settings or my settings application. The settings application is a much more robust way of adjusting a lot more different settings. And that's worth at least a whole nother series of videos on how to navigate that settings area and how to find different settings in different ways. But this is one way to open that settings app. There are multiple other ways. And if I press tab again,
Project button 12 of 12. To activate, press space bar.
I'm back in this first list of items. Now, again, because the last item I was focused on was the project button, that's where my focus is now. Obviously, to move backwards, I'm going to move my left arrow.
Cast button. Nearby mobile nightlight. Live access energy saver button off.
So right and left arrow navigates among those settings. Up and down arrow will do it, but these are organized in a sort of a grid area. And to be honest, it's probably not the best plan to navigate those with up and down arrows. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.